The great hall of the palace was filled with music and light. Thousands of nobles danced and laughed as they celebrated 10,000 years of their empire. The walls were made of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. The floor was smooth like glass. Everything was perfect, clean, and beautiful. But Princess did not dance. She stood alone near a tall window looking out at the 3 moons of her home world. Her silver skin glowed softly in the moonlight. Her violet eyes were sad. She wore a simple white dress, not the grand robes of royalty. No one had asked her to dance. No one had spoken to her all evening. She was 28 years old, young for a who could live for 500 years. She was beautiful, with long silver hair that fell past her shoulders and a gentle face that many had once admired. But none of that mattered now. To her people, she was broken. She was hollow. 3 times the royal council had arranged unions for her. 3 times she had been paired with the finest noble males of the empire. They were strong. They were healthy. Their bloodlines were pure and perfect. The physicians had said each union would surely produce an heir. 3 times nothing happened. After the 3rd failure, the royal physicians examined her for many days. They used machines that could see inside her body. They tested her blood, her cells, her very DNA. When they finished, they called her father to hear their conclusion. "The princess is hollow," the head physician had announced. "Her body cannot create life. There is no cure, there is no hope." The word spread through the palace like fire. Hollow. In society, there was no greater shame for a royal woman. Children were everything. Legacy was everything. A princess who could not continue the bloodline was worthless. That was 6 months ago. Since then had become invisible. Her older sisters avoided her. Her younger brother mocked her. The nobles who once praised her beauty now looked away when she passed. Even the servants whispered behind her back. Tonight, as the empire celebrated nothing. She was simply waiting for whatever her father would decide to do with her. She did not wait long. A guard approached her with a stiff bow. "Princess, the emperor requests your presence in the throne room, immediately." Followed the guard through long hallways. Her heart beat fast, but her face showed nothing. She had learned to hide her feelings long ago. That was what royalty did. They did not show weakness. They did not cry. They simply endured. The throne room was smaller than the great hall, but far more impressive. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. The emperor's throne sat on a platform of black stone, and on that throne sat her father, Emperor. He was old, over 400 years, but he still looked strong. His silver skin was darker than hers, almost gray. His eyes were cold and sharp. He had ruled the empire for 200 years, and in all that time he had never shown mercy to anyone, not even his own children. His brother Prince stood beside the throne. He was smiling. That was never a good sign. "Daughter," the emperor said, his voice echoed in the vast room, "come forward." Walked to the base of the platform and knelt. "Father." "Rise, I have news." She stood and waited. "As you know, our empire has recently signed a treaty with the humans of Earth." The emperor spoke the word humans like it tasted bad in his mouth. "They are a young species, primitive, emotional. They are pathetically short, but they control important trade routes, and we need their cooperation." Nodded. She had heard about the humans. Everyone had. They were considered the lowest of the intelligent species in the galaxy. They lived only 80 or 90 years. They were loud, messy, and ruled by their feelings. They saw them as little better than clever animals. "The treaty requires a symbolic union," the emperor continued. "A marriage between our species to seal the alliance. Normally, such an honor would go to a princess of high standing." Prince laughed softly, felt her stomach tighten. "But we cannot waste a valuable daughter on primitives," the emperor said. "So I have decided to send you." The words hit like a blow. She kept her face calm, but inside she felt something crack. "You will travel to Earth," her father continued. You will marry whatever human they choose for you. You will serve the Empire by being a symbol of our alliance. That is the only value you have left." Prince stepped forward, still smiling. "Think of its sister. Perhaps their barbaric genetics can fix what our superior blood could not. Maybe you can finally be useful." He laughed openly. "Let her breed with the mammals, father. It is fitting." Several advisors in the room laughed with him. The sound filled the throne room, stood perfectly still as the laughter washed over her. Her hands trembled at her sides, but she did not let them see. The emperor raised his hand and the laughter stopped. "You leave in 3 days, take one servant, nothing more. You are no longer a princess of importance. You are simply a gift to seal a bargain." Bowed her head, "Yes, father." She turned and walked out of the throne room. The doors closed behind her with a heavy sound. Only then, in the empty hallway, did she allow one tear to fall down her silver cheek. A soft hand touched her shoulder. It was Lady, her handmaiden, had served since they were both children. She was the only one who had stayed loyal. "My lady," whispered, "I heard everything. I am so sorry." Wiped her tear away. "Do not be sorry. Pack your things. You are coming with me." "To Earth, to live among humans," looked frightened. "Yes," straightened her back and lifted her chin. "They call me hollow, they call me worthless, they send me to primitives as a joke." She looked at with fierce violet eyes. "But I am still alive. I will survive this. I will survive them all." Nodded slowly. "Then I will survive with you, my lady." 3 days later, boarded a small transport ship. She carried only one bag of belongings. She did not look back at the palace where she had grown up. No one came to say goodbye. As the ship rose into the sky and the planet grew smaller beneath her, made herself a promise. She would not let them break her. She would find her own worth, even if she had to search for it among the stars. She did not know that the humans, the primitives everyone laughed at, would give her something her own people never could. Hope. The journey to Earth took 14 days. Spent most of that time in her small cabin, reading about humans on the ship's computer. What she learned did not make her feel better. Humans were strange creatures. They came in many different colors, shapes, and sizes. They aged quickly and died young. They ate plants and animals. They fought wars over ideas and beliefs. They laughed and cried openly, without shame. They fell in love with strangers and married for emotions instead of bloodlines. Everything about them was the opposite of culture. Did not know how she would survive among such chaotic beings. Lady tried to comfort her. "Perhaps they will be kind, my lady. Perhaps it will not be as terrible as we fear." Said nothing. She had stopped hopping for kindness long ago. The ship landed at Earth's interstellar embassy, a large complex of buildings near a city called Seoul. Had learned that Seoul was in a country called Korea, one of many nations on this small blue planet. Unlike, which had one government for the whole world, Earth was divided into almost 200 different countries. The idea seemed foolish and inefficient too. When the ship's doors opened, stepped out into Earth's air for the first time. She stopped and stared. The sky was blue, not the pale gray blue of, but a deep, warm blue that seemed to go on forever. White clouds floated lazily across it. A yellow sun, much warmer than twin white suns, touched her skin with gentle heat. She could smell flowers, grass, and something sweet she could not name. And the sounds. Birds sang in nearby trees. Wind rustled through leaves. Somewhere in the distance, children were laughing. Was beautiful, but it was quiet and controlled. Every plant was planned. Every animal was managed. Everything had its place. Earth was alive, in a way had never been. "My lady," whispered beside her, "are you all right?" Realized she had been standing still for a long moment. "Yes, I am, surprised, that is all." A small group of humans waited at the bottom of the ship's ramp. They wore formal clothes and polite smiles. One of them stepped forward and bowed. He was tall for a human, with black hair and warm brown eyes. His skin was a soft golden color. He looked nervous but friendly. "Princess," he said in careful. His accent was not good but appreciated the effort. "Welcome to Earth. My name is Ho. I am the liaison assigned to you by the embassy." Inclined her head slightly. "Thank you, Mr. Please call me Ho." He smiled, showing white teeth. "Mr. is my father." Blinked. On such casual speech would be improper, but she reminded herself that she was not on any more. "Very well, Ho." He seemed pleased. "Let me show you to your quarters. You must be tired from the journey." As they walked through the embassy grounds, Ho talked constantly. He pointed out different buildings, explained what each one was for, and named the various plants in the gardens. He seemed genuinely excited to share his world with her. Had expected the humans to treat her coldly as her own people did. She had expected disgust or mockery. Instead, Ho treated her like an honored guest. He asked if she was comfortable. He worried about whether the gravity felt strange to her. He wanted to know if she had any food allergies. It was confusing. Her quarters were simple but clean. 2 rooms with large windows that looked out over a garden. The furniture was made of wood, something rare and expensive on. Fresh flowers sat in a vase on the table. "I hope this is acceptable," Ho said. "If you need anything changed, please tell me." "It is adequate," replied. Ho's face fell slightly, but he quickly smiled again. "I will leave you to rest. Tomorrow, if you are willing, I would like to show you more of our world. There is much to see." After he left, began unpacking their few belongings. "He seems kind, my lady." "He seems strange," corrected. "Why would he be kind to me? He knows why I am here. He knows I am a reject, sent away because no one else wanted me." Paused. Perhaps humans do not think like. Sat by the window and watched the sun set. It painted the sky in colors she had never seen before. Orange, pink, purple, gold. On sunsets were pale and brief. Here, the sky looked like it was on fire. Maybe was right. Maybe humans were different. Over the following weeks, Ho proved that was very right indeed. Every day he came to see. He never pushed her to talk or to do anything she did not want. He simply offered. Would she like to see the ocean? Would she like to try Korean food? Would she like to visit a museum? At first, refused everything. She stayed in her quarters, speaking only to, waiting for the marriage arrangement to be finalized so she could fulfill her duty and be done with it. But Ho did not give up. He brought her small gifts, a flower from the garden, a book of earth poetry translated into, a warm blanket when the nights grew cold. He never asked for anything in return. One morning he arrived with a small plant in a clay pot. "This is called a succulent," he explained. "It is very strong. It can survive almost anywhere, even with very little water or sunlight. I thought you might like it." Looked at the small green plant with its thick leaves. "Why do you bring me these things?" Ho looked surprised by the question. "Because I want you to feel welcome here. I know this must be hard for you, being so far from home, being sent away." He paused. "I read the reports about why you were sent. I know what your people call you." Stiffened. Here it comes, she thought, the mockery, the disgust. But Ho only said, "I think they are wrong." "You do not know me," said coldly. "No," he agreed, "but I would like to, if you will let me." He left the plant on her table and walked away. That night placed the succulent by her window where it could get the morning light. She did not know why. It was just a plant. It meant nothing. But when she looked at it, she felt something strange in her chest, something warm. The next day, when Ho asked if she would like to walk in the garden, she said yes. It was just a walk. It meant nothing. But as they walked among the flowers and trees, and Ho told her the names of each plant with such obvious joy, felt the walls around her heart begin to crack. Just a little. Just enough to let the light in. 3 months passed on Earth and barely noticed the time going by. Every day brought something new. Ho took her to see the mountains, where snow covered the peaks and the air was thin and cold. He took her to the ocean, where waves crashed against the shore with a sound that seemed to echo in her bones. He took her to busy city streets filled with humans rushing everywhere, talking loudly, living their short lives with such intensity. At first, observed everything like a scientist studying strange animals. She kept her distance. She asked questions but shared nothing about herself. She was polite but cold. Ho never seemed bothered by this. He answered every question patiently. He gave her space when she needed it. He never tried to touch her or make her uncomfortable. He was simply there, steady and warm, like the yellow sun that rose every morning. Slowly, without meaning to, began to trust him. It started with small things. She began to smile just a little when he made jokes. She started asking questions not just about Earth, but about him. She learned that he had studied alien biology for 10 years because he was fascinated by life in all its forms. She learned that he had a younger sister who he called every week. She learned that he loved to cook and often made too much food because he always hoped someone would join him for dinner. One evening she did. Had encouraged her to go. "You cannot hide forever, my lady, and he has been so patient." Found herself sitting at Ho's small dining table, watching him prepare something called kimchi. His small apartment was warm and cluttered with books, plants, and strange collections of rocks and shells. It was nothing like the cold perfection of the palace. "My grandmother taught me this recipe," Ho said as he stirred the pot. "She said food made with love tastes better than food made with skill." "That is not logical," said. Ho laughed. "No, it is not, but I think she was right anyway." The food was delicious. Spicy and warm and full of flavors had never tasted before. She ate 2 bowls and then felt embarrassed for eating so much. "Do not apologize," Ho said, looking pleased. "On Earth, it is a compliment to the cook when someone eats well." That dinner became a regular event. Once a week, then twice, then almost every evening. They would eat together and talk for hours. Told him about its crystal cities and its strict rules. She told him about her childhood, about the pressure to be perfect, about the loneliness of being royal. And finally, one night, she told him about being declared hollow. They were sitting on his balcony, looking up at the stars. Earth had only one moon, small and white, but the sky was full of more stars than had ever seen from. "They tested me for weeks," she said quietly. "Machines inside my body, samples of my blood, questions about every part of my life. And then they announced to the whole court that I was broken, worthless, a failure." Ho was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I am sorry." "Why, it is not your fault." "I know, but I am sorry anyway. Sorry that they hurt you. Sorry that they made you believe their words." He turned to look at her. "You are not worthless. You are not broken." No one had ever said that to her. Not her father, not her siblings, not anyone on. Felt tears building in her eyes, and for the first time in years, she did not fight them. She cried. Ho did not try to stop her or tell her to be strong. He simply sat beside her and let her cry. When her tears finally stopped, he handed her a soft cloth to dry her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "You do not need to thank me for being decent," he said gently. "You deserve people who see you for who you really are." The diplomatic marriage was supposed to happen after 6 months, but as the date approached, realized that her feelings had changed. This was no longer a duty she dreaded. Somewhere along the way, Ho had become the person she most wanted to see each day. The ceremony was small and simple. No grand rituals, no political speeches, no crowds of judgmental nobles. Just in Ho, standing in a garden full of flowers, within a few human friends as witnesses. Ho held her hands and spoke his vows in both Korean and his was still not very good, and he mispronounced several words, smiled through the whole thing. When it was her turn, she spoke from her heart instead of using traditional words. "I came to Earth expecting nothing," she said. "I expected to be alone. I expected to be unwanted, but you showed me kindness when I had forgotten what kindness felt like. You saw me when I felt invisible. You made me believe I could be whole again." She squeezed his hands. "I do not know what the future holds, but I want to walk toward it with you." Ho's eyes were wet. "That is all I have ever wanted." They kissed for the first time. It was soft and gentle and felt like coming home. That night they sat together under the stars again, but this time was not sad. She leaned against Ho's shoulder and looked up at the sky. "There," she said, pointing. "That small star, that is my sun, that is." Ho looked. "It looks so far away." "It is," said, "and I am glad." Watched them from the window, smiling. She had served for 20 years and had never seen her princess look so at peace. The days that followed were the happiest of life. She and Ho explored Earth together as partners now, not just as assigned companions. They laughed together. They disagreed about small things and made up quickly. They learned each other's habits and rhythms. Planted a garden outside their new home. Ho taught her which earth plants would grow best. She discovered that she loved getting her hands dirty, feeling the soil between her fingers. On royalty never touched dirt. Here, she could be whoever she wanted. "You are smiling again," Ho said one morning, watching her tend to her flowers. "Am I?" Looked up at him. "I did not notice." "You have been smiling a lot lately. I like it." Stood and kissed his cheek. "That is your fault." "I will accept the blame," he said, grinning. Neither of them knew that their lives were about to change again. In a few short weeks, something impossible would happen, something that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. But for now, in this quiet moment, they were simply happy. And happiness was learning, was not weakness. It was the greatest strength of all. 3 months after the wedding, woke up feeling strange. Her stomach turned and she rushed to the bathroom to be sick. When it was over, she sat on the cool floor, breathing deeply. She felt tired, more tired than she had ever felt before. Her body seemed heavier somehow. Ho knocked on the door. "Are you all right?" "I am fine," she called back, "just not feeling well." She blamed it on Earth food at first. There were many new things she had been eating. Perhaps her body was having trouble adjusting. She drank water and rested for the day. But the sickness came back the next morning, and the next, and the next. Began to watch her with worried eyes. She brought special teas and made her rest more often, but there was something else in his gaze, something could not identify. On the 5th day of sickness, snapped at her. "What is it? Why do you keep staring at me like that?" Hesitated. "My lady, forgive me, but how long has it been since your last cycle?" Blinked. Women had monthly cycles similar to humans. She tried to remember. Her last cycle had been. When? Before the wedding. No, longer than that. Much longer. "I have been under stress," said slowly. "Cycles can be irregular under stress. You know that." "Yes, my lady," his voice was careful. "But these symptoms you are having, the sickness in the morning, the fatigue, the sensitivity to smells." She paused. We would call these the signs of early pregnancy." Felt the world tilt beneath her. "That is impossible," she said. Her voice sounded strange in her own ears. "I am hollow. 3 nobles failed to give me a child. The physicians examined me. They said I could never conceive." "Yes, my lady, I know," knelt beside her. "But perhaps the physicians were wrong, perhaps. Perhaps human biology is different." His heart was beating so fast she thought she might be sick again. This could not be real. She had accepted her fate. She had made peace with being childless. This had to be a mistake. But a small voice in her head whispered, "What if it is not?" Ho came home that evening to find sitting completely still in the living room, staring at nothing. He immediately knew something was wrong. "What happened?" he asked, kneeling in front of her. "Talk to me." She looked at him with wide violet eyes. "I need to see a doctor, a human doctor." Ho did not ask questions. Within an hour, they were at a medical facility run by Dr. Park Jinnah, one of the leading human experts on xenobiology. Dr. Jinnah was a small woman with sharp eyes and a gentle manner. She had worked with many alien species and was known for her skill. "Let me run some tests," she said. "Full biological workup. We will find out what is happening." The tests took several hours. Sat in the examination room, holding Ho's hand so tightly that her silver fingers left marks on his skin. He did not complain. "Whatever it is," he said quietly, "we will face it together." Nodded but could not speak. She was too afraid to hope, too afraid to be disappointed again. Dr. Jinnah finally returned. She was holding a tablet in her hands, and her face wore an expression could not read. The doctor sat down across from them and took a deep breath. "Princess," she said, "I have run every test 3 times to be certain. There is no doubt about the results." His chest tightened. "What is wrong with me?" Dr. Jinnah smiled. It was a smile of wonder, of disbelief, of joy. "Nothing is wrong with you," she said. "You are pregnant." For a long moment no one spoke, heard the words but could not understand them. They did not make sense. They could not be true. "That is impossible," she whispered. "I am hollow." "You are not hollow," Dr. Jinnah said firmly. "You are carrying a healthy child, approximately 11 weeks along. The baby has a strong heartbeat." She turned her tablet around to show them an image. "You can see it right here." On the screen was a small shape, tiny and strange and beautiful. A baby, her baby, their baby. Made a sound she had never made before, something between a laugh and a sob. Tears streamed down her silver cheeks. Beside her, Ho was crying too, holding her close. "I do not understand," managed to say. 3 nobles tried. They were the finest bloodlines in the empire. How could a human succeed where they failed? Dr. Jinnah had been thinking about this. "I have a theory. May I explain?" Nodded. "They have practiced selective breeding for thousands of years," the doctor said. "You only reproduce with those who have approved bloodlines. Over time, your genetics have become very similar, very pure, as you would say, but that purity comes with a cost. Your DNA lacks variation, lacks diversity." She pulled up some charts on her tablet. "Humans are different. We are messy. We breed with whoever we want without planning. Our genetics are incredibly diverse. Every human carries thousands of genetic variations that could never exist in a carefully controlled population." She pointed at a specific chart. "When Ho's DNA combined with yours, it did not compete with your genetics. It complemented them. His genetic diversity filled in the gaps that blood could not. His DNA gave your body exactly what it needed to create life." Stared at the chart trying to understand. "So they were too pure." "Yes, your physicians looked at you and said you were broken, but the truth is, you were waiting for the right partner, someone who was different from you, someone who could give your body what it lacked." Dr. Jinnah smiled. "Ho was the answer your own people could never have found." Ho laughed weakly. "I am the answer, me." "Your genes are the answer," Dr. Jinnah corrected. "Human genetics, the thing they consider primitive and inferior. It turns out it is exactly what their species needs." Turned to Ho. She looked at his face, his warm brown eyes, his nervous smile. The man everyone on would have called a primitive animal. He had given her what emperors could not. "Thank you," she whispered. Ho shook his head. "Do not thank me, thank our child." He placed his hand gently on her stomach. "She is going to change everything." Placed her hand over his. Inside her, a new life was growing, a life that should have been impossible, a life that would prove to the entire galaxy that everything they believed was wrong. They had laughed when she was sent to a human. Soon, they would not be laughing anymore. News of Princess' pregnancy spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within days of Dr. Jinnah's announcement, every news service from Earth to the outer colonies was talking about it. The Hollow Princess, sent away in disgrace, was carrying a child, a human hybrid. the first of its kind in galactic history. The reactions were immediate and intense. On Earth, humans celebrated. Their primitive genetics, the thing that aliens looked down on, had accomplished what the proudest empire in the galaxy could not. Scientists requested access to study the pregnancy. Politicians spoke of new possibilities for human-alien relations. Ordinary people sent messages of congratulations to the embassy. Among other alien species, there was shock and curiosity. They had always claimed to be genetically superior. They had used this belief to justify their arrogance for thousands of years. Now, a single pregnancy had shattered that illusion. Species that had been quietly resentful of pride were now openly questioning everything. But the news caused chaos. Watched the transmissions from her home world with a strange mixture of emotions. The royal court was in an uproar. Physicians who had declared her hollow were being questioned. Nobles who had mocked her were suddenly silent, and her father, Emperor, had made no public statement. That silence worried Ho. "He is planning something," Ho said. They were sitting in their living room, watching reports from across the galaxy. "Your father does not seem like a man who accepts embarrassment quietly." "He is not," agreed. Her hand rested on her growing stomach. "He will want to control this situation, control me, control the child." Her fears were confirmed 3 days later. A formal transmission arrived from the Imperial Palace. It was not a private message. It was broadcast publicly, so the entire galaxy could witness it. Emperor appeared on the screen, dressed in his finest robes, surrounded by his advisors. "Daughter," he said. His voice was cold as always, but detected something else beneath it. Desperation, perhaps, or calculation. "The Empire rejoices at the news of your pregnancy. We demand that you return immediately to receive proper care. The child you carry is of royal blood and must be born on soil." Demand, not request. Notice the word choice. Prince stood beside the throne, no longer smiling. He looked nervous, understood why. If her child was viable, if hybrid genetics could solve the fertility problems that plagued many noble families, then would suddenly become the most important person in the empire. Her brother's position would be threatened. The transmission ended with a warning. "We expect your response within 1 day. Do not disappoint us." Ho turned off the screen. "What do you want to do?" Stood and walked to the window. Outside, her garden was blooming. Earth flowers in every color, growing strong in the alien soil, just like her. "I want to stay here," she said quietly. "I want our child to be born here on Earth, away from their politics and their cruelty." "Then that is what we will do." "It will not be that simple. My father will not accept refusal. He may send ships. He may threaten war." Ho came to stand beside her. "Then we will face that together. You are not alone anymore. Earth will stand with you." Looked at him. This man who had shown her kindness when she expected none. This man whose genetics had given her a miracle. This man who she loved. "I know," she said. "That is why I can be brave." The next day sent her response. Like her father's message, it was broadcast publicly. She wanted the whole galaxy to hear. She stood in front of the camera with Ho at her side. Her silver skin glowed with health. Her violet eyes were clear and strong. She wore a simple blue dress, not royal robes. She was not speaking as a princess she was speaking as. "Father," she began, "Emperor of the Empire, I have received your demand." She paused, letting the word hang in the air. "6 months ago, you sent me away because I was worthless. You called me hollow. You gave me to humans as a joke, a symbol of how little I mattered. Your court laughed as I left. My own brother suggested I breed with mammals since our superior blood had failed." Her voice remained steady, but fire burned in her eyes. "Now that I have worth, you want me back. Now that my body can do what your finest nobles could not, I am suddenly valuable. But I remember, Father, I remember every laugh, every cruel word, every moment of shame." She lifted her chin. I will not return to. I am no longer your property to command. My child will be born here, on Earth, surrounded by people who saw my value long before you did. My husband, Ho, has shown me more kindness in 1 year than the Empire showed me in 28. She placed her hand over her stomach. This child is not a prize for you to claim. She is not a tool for your empire. She is my daughter, Ho's daughter, and she will grow up knowing that her worth comes from who she is, not from what her body can produce. The camera held on her face for a long moment. I wish you well, Father. I hope that one day you will understand what you lost when you threw me away. Until then, I have nothing more to say to you. The transmission ended. For several days, the galaxy held its breath. Would the Empire respond with force? Would they send their fleet to take back by violence? But the Emperor had made a mistake. By broadcasting his demand publicly, he had made defiance public too. Other alien species had watched her response. They had seen a woman stand up against an empire with only her words and her courage. And they had been moved. Within a week, 12 different species announced their support for his decision. If they attacked Earth to reclaim her, they would face a coalition of allies. The political cost would be devastating. Emperor was forced to back down. No fleet was sent. No threats were made. The Emperor simply issued a brief statement saying that he respected his daughter's choice and looked forward to meeting his grandchild someday. It was not an apology, it was not even close, but it was a retreat. Had won. When the news came through, Ho lifted her in his arms and spun her around, laughing, clapped her hands with joy. Messages of support flooded in from across Earth and beyond. But felt no desire to celebrate. She walked out into her garden and sat among the flowers, thinking. She had an emperor. She had changed the political balance of the galaxy. She had proven that they were not as superior as they believed. But none of that mattered as much as the small life growing inside her. She touched her stomach gently. You are not even born yet, she whispered to her child. And already you have changed everything. What will you become? What will you do? The baby kicked in response. It was the first time had felt movement. She smiled through her tears. I cannot wait to meet you. The months of pregnancy passed like a dream. His body changed in ways that fascinated both her and the doctors. The baby grew strong and healthy, a perfect blend of two species. Dr. Jinnah monitored everything closely, taking careful notes that would help other couples in the future. Scientists from across the galaxy requested permission to observe, and allowed some of them, though she refused to be treated like a laboratory experiment. She is not a specimen, she told one particularly pushy researcher. She is my daughter, treat her with respect or leave. The researcher left. Ho was constantly by her side. He read books about parenting. He built furniture for the nursery with his own hands, despite having no skill at carpentry. The crib was crooked, the shelves were uneven but loved every imperfect piece. We would simply buy perfect furniture, she said, running her hand over the rough wood. But this has something better than perfection, Ho replied. It has love. Laughed, you are sentimental. Guilty. As her due date approached, an unexpected message arrived. A fleet had entered Earth's solar system, but it was not an attack force. It was a single royal ship carrying Emperor himself. The news sent the embassy into a panic. No emperor had ever traveled to another world in person. It was unprecedented, dangerous. Some advisors urged to refuse him entry, but agreed to meet him, not in a formal setting, not with guards and protocols. She invited her father to her home. Emperor arrived alone, without advisors or servants. He looked older than remembered. His silver skin had grown pale. His eyes, always cold, now seemed tired. He stood at her door, the ruler of 1,000 worlds, and for the first time in her life he looked uncertain. Daughter, he said, may I enter? Stepped aside, you may. They sat in her living room, surrounded by Earth furniture and baby supplies. Ho brought tea and then quietly left them alone. He trusted to handle this. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Emperor said something had never expected to hear. "I was wrong. Waited. When the physicians told me you were hollow, I believed them," the Emperor continued. "When the nobles mocked you, I did not stop them. When I sent you away, I thought I was solving a problem, getting rid of something broken." He looked down at his hands. "I treated you like damaged goods, my own daughter, my own blood." His voice cracked. "I have ruled this empire for 200 years. I have made many difficult decisions. I have sent soldiers to die. I have ordered executions. I have done terrible things for the sake of our people." He looked up but nothing haunts me like the look on your face when you walked out of the throne room. The pain I put there. The pain I could have prevented. Felt old wounds stirring in her chest. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I want to meet my grandchild," the Emperor said simply. "And I know I have no right to ask, not after what I did, but I am asking anyway, not as an emperor, as a father who made a terrible mistake and wants to do better." Studied his face for a long time. She saw the cold ruler who had dismissed her, but she also saw something else, something fragile, something human. "I cannot forgive you," she said finally. "Not yet, perhaps not ever, but I will let you be part of her life, because she deserves to know her grandfather, and because holding onto hatred would poison me more than it would hurt you." The Emperor nodded slowly. "That is more than I deserve." "Yes," agreed, "it is." 2 weeks later, went into labor. The delivery room was filled with people. Dr. Jinnah and her team of human doctors. 2 physicians the Emperor had brought. Holding's hand. Ho, pale with worry but refusing to leave her side. The labor was long and difficult. Hybrid births had never happened before. No one knew exactly what to expect. There were moments of fear, moments when the monitors showed numbers that made the doctors exchange worried glances. But was strong, stronger than she had ever known. "Push," Dr. Jinnah encouraged. "One more time, she is almost here." Screamed. It was a sound of pain and effort and determination. She pushed with everything she had. And then suddenly, a new sound filled the room. A baby crying. Dr. Jinnah held up the infant, tears streaming down her face. "She is perfect, absolutely perfect." The baby had silver hair like her mother and warm brown eyes like her father. Her skin was pale gold, a blend of both. She was small but strong, her cries loud and healthy. Ho was sobbing openly as Dr. Jinnah placed the baby in his arms. "Hello, little one," he whispered. "Hello." Looked down at her daughter and felt something she had no words for. Love, yes, but more than that. A sense of completion, of purpose, of hope. "She is beautiful," said, crying and laughing at the same time. The door opened and Emperor entered. He had been waiting outside, respecting space. Now he approached slowly, as if afraid he might break something. When he saw the baby, he stopped. His cold eyes filled with tears. "May I?" he asked. Nodded. The Emperor knelt beside the bed, the ruler of a galactic empire, kneeling before an infant. He reached out one trembling hand and touched the baby's cheek. "What will you name her?" he whispered. Looked at Ho, then at her father, then at the baby in her arms. She said, "It means one in Korean, because she is the first of her kind, and it also means flower, because she will bloom across the stars." Opened her brown eyes and looked up at her mother, and in that moment everything changed. The empire that had called worthless now waited eagerly for news of this child. The scientists who wanted to study her would have to wait. The politicians who wanted to use her would be disappointed. Because was not a symbol or a specimen or a political tool. She was a daughter, a granddaughter, a miracle of love and biology and hope. And she was just beginning. Later that night, after the doctors had left and the visitors had gone, sat alone with her daughter. Ho was sleeping in a chair nearby, exhausted but at peace. Through the window could see the stars. Somewhere out there was the world that had rejected her. Somewhere out there were beings who had called her hollow, broken, worthless. She looked down at, sleeping peacefully in her arms. "They were wrong about me," she whispered. "And they were wrong about your father. They were wrong about humans. They were wrong about everything." Made a small sound in her sleep, her tiny hand curling around his finger. "You will teach them," promised. "You will show them what is possible when we stop being afraid of what is different, when we stop believing that pure means better." She kissed her daughter's forehead. "You are the future, little one, and the future is beautiful." 5 years had passed since birth, and the galaxy was no longer the same. The Human Cultural Center stood on a hill outside Seoul, a beautiful building made of earth stone and crystal. It sparkled in the morning sun, a symbol of two species learning to understand each other. Gardens surrounded it, filled with flowers from both worlds growing side by side. And in those gardens, children were playing. Not just human children, not just children, hybrid children, dozens of them, running and laughing and chasing each other through the flowers. They had silver hair and brown eyes, golden skin and violet eyes, every combination imaginable. They were the first generation of a new kind of being. And leading them all was a 5-year-old girl with silver hair and warm brown eyes. Ran faster than any of them, her laughter echoing across the garden. She wore a simple dress covered in grass stains. Her knees were dirty. Her hair was tangled. She was completely, perfectly happy. Ho watched from the terrace, a smile on his face. He was older now, with some gray in his black hair, but his eyes were still warm. He was no longer just a liaison. He had become Earth's ambassador to the Empire, a position of great honor. But right now, he was just a father watching his daughter play. "She has your energy," said, coming to stand beside him. She moved slowly, one hand resting on her rounded stomach. In 2 months, their second child would arrive. Another miracle, Dr. Jinnah had said, though it was not really a miracle anymore. It was simply how their family worked. "She has your stubbornness," Ho replied, putting his arm around her. "That will serve her well." They watched organize the other children into some kind of game with complicated rules that only she seemed to understand. The hybrid children followed her lead without question. She was a natural leader, just like her grandfather. Speaking of whom, Emperor walked slowly down the garden path. He visited Earth every few months now, something that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. He had aged considerably since first him. His silver skin was almost white now. His steps were slower, but there was a softness in his eyes that had never been there before. "Grandfather!" shouted, abandoning her game immediately. She ran across the garden and threw herself into his arms. The Emperor, ruler of 1,000 worlds, dropped to his knees to catch her. He held her tight, his eyes closing with emotion. "Hello, my little flower," he said. "What are you playing?" "It is called Space Explorers. I am the captain," grabbed his hand and tried to pull him up. "Come play with us." "My old bones are not made for running," said with a gentle laugh. "But I will watch you. Show me how brave captains explore." Kissed his cheek and ran back to her friends, immediately resuming command. Stood slowly and made his way to where and Ho waited. He was smiling, a sight that still surprised the nobles who remembered his cold reign. "She grows more remarkable every day," he said. "She grows more trouble every day," corrected, but she was smiling too. Another visitor arrived at the cultural center that afternoon. Prince's brother came walking up the path with a wrapped gift in his hands. He looked uncomfortable, as he always did on Earth. 5 years had changed him too, but slowly. He approached and bowed deeply. "Sister." "Brother." There was still tension between them. Had been her greatest mocker, the one who had laughed loudest when she was sent away. Forgiveness was not easy, but he was trying. That counted for something. "I brought something for," he said, holding out the gift. "May I give it to her?" Nodded. "She is in the garden." Walked toward the playing children. Halfway there he stopped and turned back. "Sister," he said, "I have spent 5 years trying to find the words to apologize. I still have not found them, but I am trying." Met his eyes. "I know you are." It was not forgiveness, but it was a beginning. That evening, a ceremony was held to celebrate the 5th anniversary of his birth. Leaders from over 100 species attended, filling the grand hall of the cultural center. Humans and dozens of other races stood together, united by the hope that one small child represented. Emperor took the stage to give a speech. The hall fell silent. "5 years ago I made the greatest mistake of my long life," he began. His voice was strong, carrying to every corner of the room. "I looked at my daughter and saw only what she could not do. I called her worthless. I sent her away in disgrace. I laughed with those who mocked her." He paused, his eyes finding in the crowd. "We believed ourselves superior. We believed our pure blood made us better than other species. We looked at humans and saw primitives, animals, beings beneath our notice." He shook his head slowly. "We were fools." The hall was completely silent. "My daughter came to Earth expecting nothing. She found everything. She found love. She found family. She found a husband who saw her true value when her own people were blind." He turned to look at Ho. "She found humanity." His voice grew stronger. "The miracle of taught us a truth we had forgotten. Strength is not found in purity. It is found in connection, in diversity, in the courage to embrace what is different rather than fear it." He raised his glass. "To humanity, who taught the stars how to hope." The hall erupted in applause. Glasses were raised. Species that had been rivals or enemies now stood side by side, celebrating together. Later that night, after the ceremony ended and the guests departed, walked alone through the garden. The moons were bright, casting silver light across the flowers. She thought about everything that had happened, everything that had changed. She heard small footsteps behind her. Mama stood in the moonlight, her silver hair glowing, her brown eyes curious. She was supposed to be in bed, but did not scold her. "What is it, little flower?" "Grandfather said I am important. He said I changed everything." Walked closer, taking her mother's hand. "But I do not understand. I am just me. What did I do?" Knelt down so she could look her daughter in the eyes. "You did not do anything, my love. You simply existed. You were born and that was enough." Frowned. "That does not make sense." Laughed softly. "No, it does not. But sometimes the most important things do not make sense. Sometimes a miracle is just love and chance and hope coming together at the right moment." She pulled into her arms. "You do not need to understand it. You do not need to be important or special or anything else. You just need to be yourself. That is enough. That has always been enough." Hugged her back tightly. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, my little flower, more than all the stars in the sky." They walked back to the house together, hand in hand. Ho was waiting at the door, smiling at his wife and daughter. Behind him, the lights of their home glowed warm and welcoming. Somewhere in the garden, a firefly blinked in the darkness, gasped and let go of her mother's hand to chase it. She caught it gently in her silver-gold palms, her brown eyes wide with wonder. "Look, Papa, look what I found." Ho laughed. "Beautiful, just like you." Watched them, her heart full, her family, her home, her life. They had laughed when the barren alien princess was sent to a human. They had called it a joke, a disgrace, a waste. But knew the truth now. It was never a punishment. It was a gift. And the miracle that amazed them all was not politics or genetics or galactic change. The miracle was simply this: a woman who was told she could never be whole found completeness. A man who was told his species was primitive showed the galaxy what true strength looked like. and a child, born from their love, reminded everyone that the universe is full of possibilities we cannot imagine. That was the real miracle. And it was only the beginning.